have you all here. And the organizers, Team University and GroundZero, is pleased to have our wonderful guests who would be, I think, sharing great stories about their previous, let's say, backgrounds and experience, successes and failures as well, I hope. And a little bit of the history of how everything started. Just probably a week ago, I received a text message from Aziz who said, hey, Madaka, I'm here in town and can we meet? And I know Aziz for probably around 7 years now, yeah? When we had a project who knew, maybe you have seen on YouTube, called Business Laboratory, yeah? Laboratory Business. And we were on a trip to London with a delegation of around 15 people. We traveled around UK, it was London, Cambridge, Edinburgh, St. Andrews. We have seen some nice, wonderful places. Actually, back then in 2016, it was exactly 10 years after I did my master's with St. Andrews. So it was a great, let's say, memories and wonderful tour to UK. And gladly, we have met with Aziz, who used to work at Facebook at that time in London. And obviously, we think that Facebook is in US, and a lot of people would say, how come Facebook in London? But yes, they still have a very good office, very interesting building, and we really enjoyed that time. And we met several times after that, and we were in touch through social media. And so Aziz Murtazaev, let's greet him, with a round of applause. Is our first guest and former Facebook employee and current engineering lead at EMI. That's the name of your new startup, which I think you will be sharing about. Yeah, we would be really looking forward to know more about your startup. And so Aziz came with his friend, Beknazar, whom I didn't know in person, but he said that he was kind of subscribed and he was watching and texting me a couple of times. Unfortunately, I didn't see that. And he said that he would like to meet with me as well. So they both came to our Team University last week. And all of a sudden, I realized that we have two wonderful, talented gentlemen who both work at big corporations, because Beknazar used to work with Amazon, right? Yeah. In Canada. Yeah. So you see, this is something that we traditionally think that all American companies are in the United States, which is not. They are global companies, yeah? So yes, they were founded in the United States, but they can be all over the world, all over the places. And interestingly, so Beknazar Abdikamalov, let's greet him as well, and who is the former Amazon employee and currently is CTO, Chief Technical Officer, I think. That's the abbreviation's description, at EMI as well. So it's a new startup which actually united these wonderful two gentlemen who knew each other before, and I hope that they can share their own stories by themselves. So welcome, guys. It's a great privilege to have you. I know that afternoon they will be flying to different places. They are leaving Uzbekistan because of their business commitments. So we caught that specific slot of several hours when they're still here. And we thought that this is great if you share your stories with our students of Team University, with some other people and participants from, let's say, maybe GroundZero or somewhere else. And I'm sure our guests will be happy to share their stories and introduce themselves throughout our conversation today. So basically what we do, we invite interesting guest speakers, we discuss various topics with them, and we place everything on our YouTube channel, which is a great opportunity for others who are not physically here to watch this and obviously share this and like and comment.
Subscribe.
And do whatever they want to do with that content. And actually we are doing good. For a young university, we already have more than 2,000 subscribers. We have something like 2,300 subscribers now. And the record we had was Margulan Zesimbai, who that was seen by more than 100,000 people. So you have, way to go. In that
we'll beat
sense.
them.
Yeah. So please, let's start with you guys. Please introduce yourself in whatever way you think is appropriate, and then I will start asking you questions.
Sure. Hi everyone, thanks for coming here. My name is Aziz Murtazaev, and thanks for introducing me. I'll try to be short as much as possible. So, I was born in Nukus, and I did my high school there, and I did my undergrad here in Tashkent State University, National University, Uzbekistan National University. Initially, I was doing economics because at that time when I was graduating in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So, and economics was like, oh yeah, maybe, because I just knew math and English, and these were two subjects that you were required to do the exam. But while I was doing economics, I started feeling more and more like, this doesn't feel like something I'm interested in or passionate about. So, there was one case where there was some training course. Actually, it was free for students to do the programming. So they taught programming, intensive programming course, free for students for 3 months every day. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I had interest in IT in general, but it wasn't. I didn't consider it as my main major, something that I would be working on. So it was more like a little hobby, but once I get into this course, it was like, wow, this is very interesting. And also I felt like something is going well and I can do this, and I was enjoying the process, and I was like, okay, maybe I should switch it. And by the time I graduated my undergrad, I had already a clear idea that I want to do in the software development and IT sphere. So I worked a bit in Tashkent after graduation, but I still felt a little bit that I don't have this kind of fundamental knowledge of computer science. And this is I could know how to program, but it was very high level. And if you go a little bit deeper, and I was easily lost. And that's why I was like, maybe masters would be a good idea. And I tried different approaches, universities abroad. I really wanted to go abroad, and I had a chance to get into the Korean university. I studied in Aju University, so I think they opened.
Yeah, they have a branch here.
Yes, yeah. And I did computer engineering there. So it was not very easy because I was kind of jumped to masters without having undergrad. But it was totally worth it. And after that, I felt more confident that I have some knowledge that when I get lost, at least I can find my way through. And after graduating, I looked for some opportunities there in Korea, and I got into Samsung Electronics. And they offered me, when they asked me in interview, what kind of area you want to go in, I gave them 2 areas, Android development or cloud computing, and then they assigned me to Android development. So I worked there for 3.5 years, but first few years were really interesting, learning new stuff. But it was still a big corporation, and with all this, what entails to this, it's very structured, and I started feeling maybe I need to move on to something new. So, but I didn't have the confidence to apply to these companies like Google, Facebook. So I think this is also kind of interesting lesson that sometimes some kind of confidence is needed even to apply. But I was preparing for interviews for the Google, Facebook, and all these companies. But I didn't apply yet. I was like, okay, I'm not ready. I need to prepare more. And once I And then I started filling my LinkedIn, and there's someone from Facebook reached out from LinkedIn, like said, hey, we have this position, are you interested? I go, of course I'm interested. Let's try it out. And I asked like longer times to prepare for interviews, and eventually I did all the steps, and everything was going good. And also in the meantime I applied to Amazon, and eventually I got offers from both. And then I decided to move on with Facebook, and because from visa issues also, like they gave more guarantees, because even if you get into the company but you don't get visa,
there's no point.
So Facebook gave more guarantees about the visa, so I decided to move on. So I was supposed to go to US, but there was visa issues, and luckily they said like, if you don't go to the US, you can stay in London office, work there for 1 year, and then move to California office. And that's what I did. After 1 year, I started working there 1 year. I decided that no, I like London more, so let me stay in London. So I worked there for 6 years, and I left around November last year.
So how many years did you stay with Facebook?
6 years.
6 years
Yes.
was your journey.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think that's like intro, and then maybe we can go into more
Sure.
after,
Sure.
like as this next episode.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Go
Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Bek. You can just call me Bek. I'm also from Nukus. I've known Aziz for more than 10 years. My story is a little bit different in some of the regards. Like the significant differences, I fell in love with computers when I was 6th grade around, when I first got introduced to internet. And I started making websites, like doing some kind of hacking stuff. Like at nights I would sit. My parents started to limit the hours because my eyesight got really bad, but I really loved it. So I think that's the cliche, right? Some people say do what you love. Like I think it applies to me. So I've been doing what I love I feel very lucky about that. So since 6th grade, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be an engineer. That's all. I really loved physics and mathematics. I think that's the central topic. I think Aziz also loved mathematics. He was participating in Olympiads. I think those are the moments some people miss. But like, if you like the technology, some people go to like boot camps, and in 6 months they want to learn programming. But having deep knowledge in these subjects really helps you to always stay in that line fundamentally, because you can switch languages. It doesn't matter Python, JavaScript, because it's all about solving problems. So we have been solving problems since 6th grade, and we need more people to be able to do that, I think. That's why I got into computer science when I was a bachelor's into Korea. It's called UNIST, Ulsan National Institute of Science and Technology. My first major was computer science, second was mathematics. Then I also worked for 1 year after my bachelor's in Korea. I wanted to see the industry, feel it, how it's going. So I worked with one startup. And then I realized I'm starting to feel like a slave at some point. I guess many people feel that at some point in their career. So I was like, oh, maybe this is not the right path, because computer science is big, right? Like there is a mobile app development, there is a back end, there is a front end, there is machine learning, etc., etc. So I was like, okay, let me go to master's, and because master's pace is still not that fast like in business, right? Business is business, so they give you a task, they have to just complete it. You cannot like self-reflections, do like, oh, do I like this? You just have to do it. So I went to my master's. The same professor that I was, he was my advisor in my bachelor's. So I went to UNIST again for my master's. It was computer science. We did some work on Wi-Fi technology, like doing interlocalization project. Then After 2 years of studying in masters, I realized that I want to be more high-level engineer. Like I want to be CTO, I want to lead teams, to make it more fulfilling, to be more close to the customer. I don't want to be just one part of a big, large mechanism. So that's why I ignored all the corporations like Samsung, because I felt like it's not for me. So I was always applying for startups. Like I liked really like high growth, fast-paced startups where like you work even weekends, but you are building fun things and you are with a fun team. So I worked with like several startups. I co-founded some as well, like 2 of them, but one of them is I left, but one of them went bankrupt. It's a typical thing with businesses. But in that, I didn't stay in one company more than a year because I like to move. I like dynamic environment. Maybe from my talking you can feel it. But yeah, so like it was a big experience for me, like to be able to switch between the jobs, meeting a lot of successful and interesting people. Then I got invited, I applied for many companies also. I wanted to also check how the corporations work. And also they have great things like perks, they provide you visa. I wanted to relocate to somewhere where the English language is a primary language. So I moved to Canada, thanks to Amazon, thank you. So they provided me with visa and relocation packages. They are very amazing. Like I would like to pay them forward someday. Maybe I'll invest in some of their stocks and stuff. But it's great to work with corporations where like you can meet a lot of smart people. You feel stupid again. You feel small. I think it's good to feel that sometimes. And yeah, then this year, from end of the last year, we started a new startup called AMI, where I think we can talk more detailedly. So basically, that's my story. And with my story, I just want to tell that you can be from anywhere, from Nukus, from Kharezm, Tashkent, and you can do great things, I think. It's just about consistency and discipline and passion for what you do. And we are really passionate about what we do.
Great.
Thank you.
That was great intro. Both of you mentioned that you felt at certain point that companies that you're working for are making slave of you, yeah? and obviously we remember the movie Squid Game, yeah? Especially because you both studied in Korea.
Yeah, it feels close.
Yeah, it feels very close.
Mm-hmm.
So hope that didn't happen to you. You were not participants of Squid Game, no? Not
Yeah.
the ones who are lucky ones.
We know we were on the top.
Okay. So my first question would be to you, is the soil of Nukus very special? Why is it producing so many people with the engineering and IT interest? Is there anything that was special to Karakal, Pakistan, that you both came from there and you both became quite successful in your, let's say, working in big corporations? What was the reason? What were the reasons that, is there any correlation?
That's an interesting question. I think we had like great teachers. So for me, like I was very interested in math, and I participated in like Olympiads, and my teacher was also like very strong on that, and also like. Like the Turkish Lyceum graduates were also like really good, although the Turkish Lyceum were everywhere. That's actually a very interesting question to explore. I don't have like definite answer.
I think I can answer that. There is a special place in Nukus. I think it's hard. I don't think Nukus is special. I think we're just like if you look at the data, I think from Tashkent also the proportions are almost same. Like number of like successful people, maybe even greater. So, but the one thing I want to mention is like having hardships and having limited resources, I think helps you to navigate through all these challenges, makes you stronger. Like there is a great saying, like stronger times make weak men and difficult times make strong men, or something like that. Easy times and difficult. So I think those, like for example, in the beginning, like when I told you that in my 6th grade I fell in love with the internet. At that time in our school, the internet was limited for 1 hour per day. So I had to take notes like, okay, when I get to internet, I have to do one, I have to do this, I have to do that. You have to be really efficient, right? And I think that helps you, because even in Amazon, one of the key principles was resourcefulness. So if you have a limited thing, I think it's good, actually. It makes you more creative. If you have constraints, I think it helps a lot to build the character.
I think that sounds really great. And when I go to the regions, and I do that on a regular basis, previously because of my, let's say, B2B businesses, selling some equipment, etc. But for the last year, I visit educational centers, obviously, in the regions, and I meet a lot of young generation. And I go to Fergana Valley, I go to Samarkand, Bukhara, and different places. And one of the traditional questions I ask from the audience is, how many of you would like to study or live abroad? Guess what is the percentage of people who raise their hands?
80%?
Yes, something like 75, 80% of people. So literally 7 people out of 10 would raise their hands and say that they would like to live elsewhere. Then I ask a question, because our university is based in Tashkent. I ask the question, how many of you would like to live in Tashkent? Then approximately 3-4 people out of 10 would raise their hands again. So that means that if they are not able to study somewhere else, like Korea, United States, UK, they would still prefer studying in Tashkent. So that also gave me a strong message that because of probably not competitive, let's say, high level of standards of education, and maybe some other factors, youth would like to leave the locations. And I think in that sense, Karakol, Pakistan being the western part of Uzbekistan, and you mentioned that there are some additional hardships, we all know about that, which is adultcy and some other factors. I think that really create a generation, a very persistent, and very motivated young generation, which is, I think, a good, let's say, part of all the challenges.
And they are highly valued all over the world, like hard, persistent people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, by the way, Bek, how many years did you work with Amazon?
1 year, exactly 1 year.
1 year, okay. Here we see 6 years, here we see only 1 year.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking is that my next question would be, you have worked in big corporations, right? I mean, I'm sure you have heard this dozens of times, maybe hundreds of times, that these corporations are dream companies. Like, a lot of people would like to work in Amazons of the world, in Facebooks, and you know, Alibabas, and all other, like Teslas, etc. So whenever you have a sign in your resume that you have worked in this company, your stocks increase, right? Whether we discuss the factor of the marriage, if you want to marry, you could go and say, oh, he has worked in such and such place. Previously, that would be, he used to work in the SNB or prosecution office, or Ministry of Interior. Now, if you have worked in the big corporations, your stocks will increase everywhere. Okay, so my question is, what were the thoughts, let's say, temptations, or let's say the factors of, I mean, working in these companies? I mean, people are really privileged, right? I mean, working in these companies, you are privileged to have all those perks, have talented people around, etc. What is it like? Give us a brief, let's say, description of your years in big corporations. What was the feelings you had?
Sure.
Yeah.
I can start. Like when you get into the company and you started, it feels like Disneyland. You have everything there. Free food.
Massage.
There are like the massaging chairs as well.
And not only in chairs, I've heard that special hours sometimes. You can get some manual, like, you know.
You can book massage sessions. And it provides a lot of benefits, and you feel like you are kind of king. Like you are like working as an engineer, you are treated almost the same way as like VPs or directors in other companies. So one example is like we used to fly to main office, which is in California. It's in a small city called Menlo Park. And when we fly there, we used to fly in business class always. And
because of the length, yeah? Because
yes,
of the length.
so there was a policy, travel policy, which said if the distance is more than 4,500, you can fly business class. So it was such a privilege, and it's like, wow, I didn't even try this before, especially in long flights. You have like a nice business suites, and you can really like enjoy it. And then you go there and you can rent a car and all the expenses by the company and stay in nice hotels and all this stuff, and you could also travel. So like it's kind of you came into like dream world and
Very nice.
yeah. So kind of there was this honeymoon phase with the company. If you can say so. So like you always say, oh, this is interesting, and also people, of course, like very interesting people. Like whenever you talk, you get like inspired, and you see not only they're engineers, but they have some other hobbies. I had some colleagues who were like actually singers, or some of them are doing some like write books and all this stuff, and it's really interesting. And I think it's lasted maybe 3-4 years, and after that there was also changes in company as well. Like the most famous one is the Cambridge Analytica, where there was a huge scandal about how Facebook data was used to affect the US elections. And that was a little bit turning point where things were less liberal in the company. Previously it was like kind of chaos in a good way, like you could do a lot of things, you didn't have to ask for a lot of permissions to do that, and also regarding the work as well, if you're really interested in some area, like you could just go and do it, and then prove in UZBEK. Once you prove UZBEK that it proves something, then go ahead and do it, and you can build your team there. So it was really like this kind of environment. But then it got bigger and slower, and more process, and I think this is not critique of Facebook. It's more like a natural thing with companies. When you get so big, like you have to put some processes, and not everyone like it, but you have to like either adapt it or find something else. And I think even until end of 2019, it was still good. I was doing new experiences. For example, I did some public speaking in conferences in Berlin and London. It was like really, okay, I'm learning, and it's like I performed some interviews for the candidates, and different experiences, but of course COVID affected really a lot with how you experience Facebook. So all of a sudden you were cut out of all these benefits, and you were just stuck at home, and we were working from home for 14 months. So it was like really harsh, especially when a lot of motivation comes from like the environment, and all of a sudden you are just left out that, and you are just faced with work itself, and also work itself was like, okay, maybe I'm not that interested. Maybe I was more interested in the environment. So yeah, I started feeling a bit burned out as well, and I was it wasn't very fulfilling, and I started thinking about leaving, but because of a lot of uncertainty around COVID, I was like, if I leave now, a lot of countries are closed, and what I do, that was also reason I stayed a little bit more than I actually reached for, and but once things becoming better, I decided to take a break. So I decided, okay, I'll take a 6 months sabbatical. I will not work at all, and just think about what I want to do. And yeah, I took all the 4 months of it, and I joined AIM, which is another part of the story. So yeah, I think if I summarize it, these companies are really good to get into and get experience, learn from those people. But if you want all the different experience and you want to kind of be more like a multi-brained person, first in not only engineering but maybe in business and all this stuff, maybe you can try different things. So that was also one of the motivations for me to join an early stage startup. So that it's kind of chaos. You have a lot of things and you need to think about, and you have like really skin in the game, which is like you did something, you messed up, and you are responsible for it, or you did really good and you get all the rewards. So this kind of direct impact was something that I was looking for.
Cool. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Your turn.
I think I have.
By the way, can you hear us well? Should we use a microphone, or do you think? Is it okay? Everyone can hear us? Okay. Maybe we can use them later.
So I think I told you that I ignored a lot of big corporations, but Amazon was different because I needed some things to experience new things. But like when you get the offer from Amazon, it felt like a dream. So I remember that day, and when they had the call with the recruiter, and they were like, "So we decided to offer." Like she screamed, and I was like, I tried to keep it inside me. I was like, yeah, I expected it. Like
as if you have 3 other options.
Yeah, because it helps with the negotiation of the salary and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I expected it. So then it was like my confidence just boom, like crazy. It's weird. Like when I meet these people, I feel smarter. Like, and everyone is interested in you. They want to like ask you questions, and you're flying in the sky basically, and they treat you like really well. Like managers, they really care about you. Like it feels like they're not manager in traditional sense. Like they're like, hey, how can I help you? I'm like, everything's good. Like. And I had a manager from Sweden, and he would, that like the Sweden, all these Scandinavian countries are in general very good with work-life balance. So they're like really treat you well. I think in that regard, I felt really lucky. So, and I had also another thing was my team was consisted of different countries, people like from Russia, India, China, Korea, and I felt really stupid when I joined. Like wow, I need to learn a lot of things. And
was it more like knowledge or soft skills, or was it a different culture? What was the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest was hard skills. Like coding, they're so good, super efficient. I think in soft skills, I felt the opposite. I felt more because they're like really like geeky people. Like they really know stuff. So I was like the main guy who like organized social events. Like, hey, let's get let's meet more. Like, I'm tired of sitting at home, and they're like, no, we're comfortable, and and the salaries are great. Like for the first time when I go to like buy clothes and stuff, I don't care about the price much. Like just go and just buy. Like financially, you feel very safe. Very safe, because there is a very low probability of like also like if you're doing your job well, they don't fire you like easily, and they have a lot of really need you. You feel like you are needed there, and those are like the great stuff about it. But the negative feelings I had was like it's a big corporation, so you cannot easily like say like, hey, let's do this way, let's do that way. You have to go through different hierarchy levels. So for example, to get to Jeff Bezos, I had like 7 levels, I think. So everyone was like, when I joined, like, did you meet Jeff Bezos? I'm like, no, like, I just got one email from him, like, to whole company. He sent like, hey, I'm stepping down as a CEO. Like, do you remember, like, recently?
Yeah.
So as soon as I joined, Jeff Bezos was like leaving. I'm like, because he was like my idol and stuff. So those are the like the benefits are great. Like I fixed like a lot of issues with my health thanks to insurance. Like it was great. Like they pay for your phone, they pay for your like transport, like parking if you have a car. They have great offices. Like, but unfortunately because of the pandemic, we were not able to use it much. But we worked the whole time almost at home.
But your journey with a big corporation was 6 times less. What was the reason?
The
is
reason
it your
is
temper? Is it some change? Is it COVID? Or is it because, I don't know, some other reasons?
I think the biggest reason is that I like more dynamic places. I like to be in touch with customer directly. So when I do some work, I want to feel that it's affecting the customer. Mm-hmm. But with big corporations, you don't really feel it because the changes I make was like, it has to go to the production. It will go to like very small percentage of the customer. We have to do a lot of testing. I don't have the patience for that. I want to just break things. I want to build stuff, add new features. I want to talk to CEO, like have coffee chat sometimes. I want to talk about the culture of the company, the vision of the company. So I think my personality don't fit with big corporations.
But if you had a chance to do it again, would you still go to Amazon?
Maybe. Yeah, I would join definitely. If I go back in time, I would take it 100 times again because it helped with my startup now.
Good.
Because like they were like, it's in my resume now, and I think if I didn't work, maybe you would pay less attention to me. To be honest, like now I worked at Amazon, like in Nukus also when I go like, oh, this guy worked at Amazon, this guy worked at Amazon. Like you feel like they give you more credibility, and that thing is, I think, very important for like personal reputation and stuff.
So it elevates you all of a sudden to a high level.
You go to the next level.
Okay, my last question before we do the coffee break, and I hope that our audience is enjoying this. Are you? Is it interesting? Yeah? Okay, so my last question would be about Emmy, your new startup. We kind of logically come to this point when, tell us a little bit more why you think, and by the way, guys shared the story and it was in the news just yesterday that you guys raised $3 or $4 million for the startup. Yeah, this is something which I think is really a big deal for Uzbek, for Karakalpaks, Uzbeks, well, however we call you. I mean, it's still we share the whole. I mean, we share one country with you, and I think you still associate yourself very significantly with Uzbekistan. I hope so. And I think this is really a great success story. So tell us a little bit what made, as I understand, it was Amazon's, some of the subsidiaries, or who was investing money, who is investing money, why this became all of a sudden such a big success. What did you do to make this success? How did all this happen? Can you share?
Sure, yeah. I will share this because, so a little bit of backstory, like when I was just about to leave Korea, I was working at a startup for home services where I got connected with my coworker he's my co-founder now. So we founded this startup together, but we met in the previous startup. And in the previous startup, there was something special. We had a club called like secret club within the company called Unicorns Club, where like everyone who was interested in startup world, and CEO was the leader of this group. And whenever he had met with employees, he would have a one-on-one dinner, and he would find out about the person and what he's passionate about. And as soon as we had a dinner, we had some weird good connection with the CEO, and it was like, you should definitely with Justin. So Justin is my co-founder. So you guys will get along well because we had similar vision about life and career startups. So there we met, and we would meet once per month. We would have dinner and talk about company culture and the direction of the company going. So it was a great experience. And at some point, I knew that like maybe we'll be teaming up together at some point in life in the future with Justin. And when I was working at startup, he just reached out to me. He was like, yeah, I have this idea where like you can vent anyone, anytime. Yeah, like the word vent means like you can talk to anyone, like when you feel down or when you feel stressed about your work or about your relationships or your personal stress. Like you just go to the app, you just click call and you just connect with the coach and you can talk about like, it's not like a psychologist, like clinically, who will talk about very clinical stuff, but also not friend who's like, you can talk to like, hey, I feel down today, right? I think everyone talks to their friends when they're down, but we're like in between. So they're very professional coaches. We call them coaches who will help you train mentally, to be mentally strong, right? Willpower is everything, character is everything. So I really loved this idea. I was like, even if we will not be successful, I will be using this product. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the key point when you're doing startup, like at least you should be like, yeah, even if nobody comes, I will come. So something like that.
So you have to be the customer of your own business.
Yeah, you have to solve your own problems or your friends' problems. And I knew that maybe Aziz would be also interested in sport. Like you can feel that, yeah, this would be useful. And we started doing this I was part-time doing this. I was helping with some directions of and in January I quit Amazon. And it was super, super, super difficult decision. You have all these perks that we discussed earlier. And, but I really believed in this idea. And another key point was that I really respected him as a co-founder. I valued him as a very top professional that we'd be very strong together. And we started doing pilots with some companies. So we started doing it B2B. We realized I think it's a better approach. So it's business to business. So we talked to the companies like Happy Fresh in Indonesia, and they were also interested in this idea. And we were like, yeah, let's do this. And we just used WhatsApp, so like Telegram, right? And we hired some coaches part-time. We paid with our own money. Yeah, I spent almost $10,000 almost of my own money, and he spent similar. So we just started doing it. We used it for like server costs, and mostly it went for like incorporation costs and some hiring part-time coaches to do our testing. So they gave like 10 employees, about 10 employees with Happy Fresh. They're located in Indonesia, mm-hmm. and we incorporated our company in Singapore. And they were willing to do that experimentation, and we wanted to see like if this idea works. Like everyone has ideas, right? Like, yeah, let's do a taxi program or like this. And many investors, when you want to ask for money, they will be like, did you test this? So that's the main question. Does it work? So we wanted to have an answer for that. So we did this pilot program with Happy Fresh, and we had amazing results. Like, for example, 70% of the participants were willing to recommend this strongly to their friends. Mm-hmm. So it's called NPS. Like all of the metrics were good. We had great activation rate. We had great user retention. So user retention is like they keep using our product. Yeah. So it was just this WhatsApp basically, WhatsApp and coaches, and we just matched them. And they were like, wow, I like talking to someone who is not like a clinical psychologist, but at the same time also it's not someone friend. So very like stranger, but like you can open up, and they're really trained. Like listening is a very difficult skill to have, right? Like it's.
And how much do you pay for that? I mean, is it paid?
For coaches, even?
Yeah, I mean, as a user, if I want to use that app, how much would I be paying per hour or for 10 minutes?
The pricing works in this way because it's B2B. It's provided as a benefit for the employees. So if you have a company, you can come to us. We sign a contract, maybe annual or month-to-month basis. Mm-hmm. And you can be like, I want to have an access for this app for my 10 employees. And for each employee, we calculate the pricing based on your geographical location. So Singapore, we charge more, like Indonesia, we charge less because of their, right? Okay. So for your employer will pay for us, your boss will pay for us, but you don't have to pay anything. So you can be
it's
like,
gonna be like a benefit.
yeah, it's like a benefit. So like many companies do that, right? They pay for your buying books or going to conferences or going to fitness clubs. So they want you to be happier and more productive employee. So they invest for you, and we give you an access where you can talk to your coach. We match with your coach after you onboard based on number of questions, like do you prefer evening times to talk, or do you prefer morning times, or do you prefer weekends? Based on that, we matched with the most appropriate coach, and you can talk. So currently, we just raised, as Ahmad said, we just raised $3 million seed round. So total, we have pre-seed, we raised $1 million, which allowed us to have a salary, which allowed us to invite a lot of superstars like Isaac, and we have a COO, like we have about 10 people, and they're from like Expedia, Booking.com, Bloomberg, a lot of great talent. We were.
And how many of them are from Uzbekistan?
Only 2 of us.
Okay. So and the rest of the people are from where?
They're from Singapore, Indonesia, Hong Kong, a lot of like from Pan-Asia countries mostly.
So mostly Southeast Asian, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. And our target market is also currently Pan-Asia. We want to be #1 mental health coaching platform in Asia, APAC countries.
Good. So I think that's also a strong business signal that you cannot be a leader in the whole globe all of a sudden. Yeah, you should start with some niche.
Exactly. So even in Asia, actually, we target high growth startups. So we filter them out based on their rounds, how much time, like, because we don't want to be going to the too early companies where like they have a lot of limited budget. And we don't want to go to big corporations too much, because also we are an early stage company, we don't want to screw up, right?
I see.
We want to be really careful about, the more you target the market, I think the more you can focus, the more you can adapt to them, your sales pitches and all these pricing strategies, and it will apply across all the, plus a lot in these high growth startups, a lot of millennials work who are kind of more open to all these mental health issues, rather than like older people who are like, oh, they have some stigma, they have like, wow, no, I just drink some vodka and I'll be fine, or something like that, right? They have some traditional strategies to fight against this stress.
All right, thank you. I think this is a good start. Let's break for a coffee and then reunite with, I hope, wonderful questions from our audience. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Paula. I'm a student of university, and I want to ask a question. Is it difficult to get a membership on Facebook or on Zoom?
Yeah, usually you I think twice a year or 3 times a year they open these internship positions, and their interviews are easier than full-time position. Obviously, usually they ask for engineering positions, just coding questions like algorithm and data structure questions. And is it easy? I mean, if you prepare really well on those. So I think there are 2 steps to get there. First, you need to get into even their attention to consider you for interview. Once you get interview, and you need to pass that interview. So yeah, I think it depends on the university's reputation as well. Unfortunately, I think unfortunately, because this shouldn't be the case. Yeah, like if you have, that's why to get even visible to be there, you need to have like some other projects, maybe like, I don't know, volunteering or whatever, or like some side projects. If you have those, you have a higher chance to get into considered. And also there is one way to sidestep the first, which is getting a referral from someone there. So if you know someone there who works in those companies, they can do a referral for you, and the referral already makes it to the second step, which is like they will consider it at least they, even if they say no, they will respond to you with email. No, I think the worst case is you apply and they don't even contact you. Yeah. So I wouldn't say easy, but definitely you can try. And I think I would definitely recommend trying, because at least you learn the process. So, and once you are graduating the university, you will have at least some idea of like how does it work. And this psychologically it's also important, because you are always, human is all afraid of unknown things. So it's like unless you know, you don't know the process, it's like how does it work, like should I even try, and that kind of stuff. So once you pass this barrier, you at least try, and just trying and getting the experience is important.
I just wanted to add a couple of words, because after doing my master's, I also applied to dozens of places and only got just one offer in UK, and I didn't use that offer, but I agree with you that going through the interview itself, I mean going through all these procedures, all those tests, then the personality tests, applications and everything else. When you become an employer, you kind of also understand why people are doing that, and you see the process from both sides. That's really useful.
Yeah, I think in like Amazon's case, like we had one intern, but we were really like super careful about hiring interns, at least in our team, because it requires more resources to like onboard them and to teach them. Like not every team have that luxury. So they are fast-paced companies. They're like, yeah, we are just moving fast. They'll be like, just figure out, like they want you to figure it out yourself. So we really appreciated those people who like just did it themselves, and we offered them full-time positions. Also, yeah, like Aziz said, like the university's reputation is also important. Plus, they really have to need you, especially if you're from a different country. It's very, very hard, I think.
What about that myth that you don't need a university degree? Is it a myth or is it true? Does that influence? Because so many times you hear...
It makes it easier for them to select, I think. If they are from Harvard, there is a low risk to if they hire you. And like, there is no better system built yet, like who can offer you like faster ways to figure out, like just by looking at the photo or like some AI technology. So we have to rely on like all those indicators that are always sometimes misleading, but it kind of helps them to be more efficient. Especially big corporations are super efficient. So I would just keep trying and trying. Like the visa process also can be difficult, make it difficult, because they don't want to go through all this hurdle of hiring another employee from another country, because it requires a lot of money and they have to hire a law firm. So they really have to know that, oh, this guy is special, or this girl is special. So that's why, like, for example, my internship, I got into not Google, but Google Summer of Code. There was a project called Google Summer of Code. It was like easier, but because like you could actually show your efforts, like you had to code some project and show like, yeah, I did this, this is my code. They don't have to look other things. You directly start contributing. So I would look into those programs like outside of their companies. Like Facebook has a lot of open source projects. If you're like a software engineer, you can contribute to them and you can kind of stand out from all the crowds.
I'd like to add a little bit more about specifically about Facebook. In Facebook's case, they don't hire get interns into the specific teams. The whole hiring culture is a little bit different compared to Amazon, for example. They hire in general, and then you choose your team based on then actually the matching goes. Teams start pitching their team, what projects they do, and they can also have visibility, and they can choose actually, so that people work on things that they're excited on. And regarding the internships, one more thing is in most Western or developed countries, the students, undergrads, they start doing internships from first year which is like, and by the time every summer they do internships, and by the time they graduate, they already have work experience, and that's huge benefit compared to any other interns who doesn't have any experience. So regardless of which year you are studying, it's important to apply and get the experience.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm just looking at the sign. Can you read that? Стажировки с первого курса обучения.
Oh.
That's exactly what we
Was
do.
it planned?
Yeah. Thank you. You know, the fact that you're trying and repeating and doing it again, it really polishes you. So by the 4th year of education, you will become much more polished, and you will not be stressed to see the owner of the business. You will not be stressed through the interview procedure. You will understand what the job responsibilities mean. I mean, a lot of things that you will learn. From,
for example, my first internship was like when I got introduced to this professor. He was giving us a lecture, and I was like, I really love the way he talks and he like conducts the lecture. I was like, right after the lecture, I just approached like, I can work for free for you. Like, I can help with your programming. I know this, and he accepted me as an intern, and he became my advisor for my master's. Also, we still keep in touch. We become very close with him. So, like, always looking for those kind of outside opportunities. I think it's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, maybe one more thing to add.
It's enough.
So one thing is like, I think most universities in Uzbekistan are like very passive. They give you structure. They say like, hey, you need to attend these classes. I hope team is different. So I want to say that don't wait for your university to tell you that hey, go to the internship. Like, you have to do it yourself, like, because you have to be active and try to do it yourself, so, regardless of where you study. So even like the local universities. Yeah.
Good, great. Okay, next question.
Hello, my name is Murtazaev, and I'm a student. I'm an IT student. Thanks again for sharing your time with us. My question is, can you rate out of 10 the importance of working for a big company when it comes to starting your own startup? For example, how important it is to start your own startup or successful company?
And 10 is maximum, right?
Yeah, 10 is maximum.
I think for me, it's very important. I think like maybe like I would give it like 7, 8. It's not, I wouldn't say it's crucial, but it helps a lot. Yeah. Like, for example, I think the fact that I was at Amazon before helped our investors to feel more, to feel that our team is more credible.
Yeah. I would also give around 8 because especially in the beginning, like if you are out of university and you join startup and you get too much responsibility, you will get lost. Like, what should I do? Where do I start even? So you at least need to see how the things are done in those companies, even though it's not directly translatable because it will be a bit chaotic in startups. But for example, like how do they manage projects? How do you do code reviews? If we talk about specific team, and yeah, like those soft skills are important as well. Like how do you like handle conflicts and that kind of stuff, and how do you convince other teams to contribute to your team's project, and that kind of things are really useful.
I think also like it adds you a cushion. I think, like, for example, if I fail with a startup, I know that I can find a job.
Yeah, I can always come back to.
Yeah, I can always come back to. Yeah. Like if I was just fresh graduate with a failed startup, it would be much harder to get attention from companies.
So I think this is really great that big corporations are looking at your failure ratio, so to say, that you have tried something by yourself, it didn't work, and that is fine, yeah. And you repeat doing that, and that really shows them that you have some kind of energy inside, that making a mistake is okay. Right?
Yeah, like for example, I remember when I was talking to Amazon in the interview stages, like they really care about your behavioral part. So they have a lot of questions, like in this case, what did you do? Like when you had a conflict with your teammates, or what metrics did you pay attention to? So then I realized like I have a lot of stories due to my failures and stuff. I was like non-stop talking, and that gave me a lot of confidence. Like with fresh graduates, I think they will have less stuff to talk about. They'll be like, yeah, I got bad grade, like, you know, but they really like to hear your like industrial experiences. I think that helps.
Great, I think these are great answers.
Thank you. Hey, my name is Shiko. I'm not an IT student. I major in business and marketing. And I believe the team is the most valuable asset you have while doing a startup. So my question is, what kind of team members are there supposed to be? Like the most important team members when doing an IT startup? And what kind of members do you have?
Actually, I thought about this, so I think I can answer this also. Because when we are building a team with my co-founder, we sit and we're like discussing like who we need, what represents our startup, who is the ideal member. I think number one is like who is really passionate, like who we can trust. Because for our case, it's remote first, right? So we want to be able to trust the user. Like we don't want them to sit at home and like just sleep all the time, because we cannot really see what they're actually doing. So we just have to trust them. And we really care about also like proactive people, like who can be, because in startup world, things are not like still clear. Like, and the positions are also not clear. Like, for example, I had to do some marketing maybe, or I had to design our first logo, for example. I wasn't like, I was just sitting like, I'm an engineer. I had to be proactive. I would talk to Justin also like, yeah, we have to do it this way. Our value proposition when we are doing sales pitches. I think it's not only us, I think every startup really likes those kind of people who are not, like rigid, like just I'm do this, that's all. I don't just tell me what to do and I'm like a robot. We want them to take responsibilities, like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. And another thing is like we really care about data-driven people. So we were like, we don't want people to say like, hey, I think to make it blue it will be better. Why? Like, do you have a data to back up? And we want them to say like, I think this will be good, let's experiment it. Let's do A/B testing maybe, and see how the conversion rate will be played out, and see the data, always looking at the data. Like we are always, every day I update the metrics, we have a product metrics, like how many people come to our website, how many of them onboarded, what did they schedule a session right away, or how long did it take for them to take a session. So data driven, like in Amazon also, they really cared. So when we were preparing for interview, a lot of people advised me like, when you talk to them, talk with data.
True.
I think that's
important.
Yeah, so I can give example of like what we are doing now. Like for example, if I just focused on what I did before, like in my company, like I did Android, specific part of Android. So if I had this approach of, okay, let me do the same thing, like I wouldn't do. So now I'm taking over like iOS as well, like, and we are kind of wearing different hats. So like no one gave me design of the mobile app. Like we are just making it up and you know, just looking for some examples. And it's not ideal, but this is how you move forward. And eventually we will hire like designer and then make it like polished. But to get this product out as quickly as possible, like you need to be a little bit multiversed, and also like product. So that in big companies you have a lot of roles. Like we used to have in Facebook like product designer who thinks about these user stories, how they use it, UX designer and all this. this part also like we are doing, like we are not specialists, but we just do what we can there and then see how it goes and like get feedback.
Yeah, I remember this conversation with my manager also in Amazon where like he said, I appreciate that you're a flexible person who can wear many hats. And it was like, and that made our relationship so much better that I was like very flexible, and I was like, he would say like, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, I will learn it and I will do it. So like, you're ready for anything. Like you're in a war, right? Business is like a war. Like you cannot be like, I cannot shoot this. You have to do all the things. Like I cannot cook, or like you have to do all the things. This is like a war. So the more you are flexible and the more, I think, and I forgot to say one important thing. In every company, you have to have that personality that people are happy to work with you. So I think many people miss, that part, especially in IT field. They think that I'm just good at this. And I saw so many people who got fired, like, or who were not good in the team, and because they were not willing to work with others, they were not good. Yeah. They will be like, oh, but he's good at this, but I cannot talk to him. He said, like, you know, like I want to be able to express and communicate with a person.
Cool. I think these are the great advices. Yeah.
Can I ask a second question?
Yeah.
So my next question is a bit, you said you worked in different startups. So based on your experience, what do you think is the main reason why the startups failed or went bankrupt? And what is it in your startup that's gonna make you survive? Like, what's special about your startup that you believe that this is gonna work?
Okay. I think that's a great question. Yeah, I also kind of reflected on those failures, because if you don't learn and if you do the same things again, you are bound, like you're gonna fail again, right? I think most of the startups, I was inexperienced. I think inexperienced is very bad. I think that's very key. Another thing was, I think we didn't have a good synergy with the co-founders. I think you have to have that synergy. Like with one startup, for example, that I left was, he was also in IT, I was in IT, but we didn't have that, the things that he was good at, I was also good at. So we didn't add each other.
Complement to each other.
It's like you marry someone and like you're both like good at cooking and then like,
and nobody's good at driving.
Yeah, nobody's good at making money, but you're good at other things, right? Like I'm good at making money, and like, or she's good at making money, I'm good at cooking or like taking care of kids. Like there should be complementary, I think. I think those were the key, and also there is a great saying by the co-founder of this A18Z, like Anderson Horowitz. Like he says, like when great market meets weak team, market wins, and when weak market meets great team, market still wins, because the market is bad. But when great market meets great team, they win. So I think for this reason, I have a feeling this will work out better, much better, because I think we have a great team, and the market is very good. I think that it's booming. Like as you know, like every time, like when I was working in like going to Starbucks, for example, I saw like one poster, like we hire like baristas and we provide $500 for mental health, right? And we saw a lot of data where like my co-founder shared with me, like even they are providing almost 20% of their salary as a benefit in some companies for mental health. And in our last all hands meeting in Amazon, our CEO, Andy Jassy, you know, the current CEO of Amazon, like talked about mental health of employees like for 10 minutes, I think. It was a big part of this conversation. So all this, like you have a feeling like this market is booming, like everywhere you look, there are evidences. Like these are not like, you see that I'm sharing the anecdote, I'm sharing the data. So the market is clearly going great. As long as we have a great team, which we have, I think. So we have like superstars like Aziz, like from ex-Facebook, ex-Amazon. My partner is from Bloomberg. He worked at great companies. He worked at previously in #1 fintech company in Korea called TOS. And we have CEO also who's from also Bloomberg, all the financial field, who was earning like, she was earning like at least $200,000 per year or something. Like,
And she left.
She left to work for us, right? It says something. And we have salespeople from Booking, Expedia, all these great companies, and we have a bunch of great investors, like Meta joined us. And when great and smart people believe in you, it gives you more confidence. Like when we had conversations, they were like, how much do you want us to invest? Like, actually we had to reject some investors. Like they were like, I want to, even my like friends, they were like, can I invest? Like, I was like, no, we don't want to dilute our shares too much. So for those reasons, I have a great feeling it's gonna work out well.
Right. Yeah, more questions?
I'm Salman, and I'm a business administration student, but my question is not about business. My question is about Facebook company itself. I heard that the inside of the workers' uniform there is an emblem which contains silicon star. Is it actually right? Does it have this kind of emblem? And what is the meaning of it?
Three
star. Hexagonal star.
I don't think I heard about it.
I didn't understand. Can you please repeat?
Yeah, I also
the
didn't
question?
hear fully. Like
Maybe without microphone, try?
or a little bit far away. Like
Yeah.
maybe I think if you do it closely.
I heard that the inside of the uniforms of Facebook workers there is an emblem which contains hexagonal star. Is it actually?
No. That's BS.
Maybe it's a conspiracy.
That's total BS. No.
Maybe you didn't know.
And where did you hear this from? Anyone share? Or did you read somewhere? I see. Okay.
We had a lot of like T-shirt and all this stuff. Like, I mean, I still have it, and none of them have any special thing inside.
So, thank you for this event. I'm really enjoying it. My name is Rashid. I'm a software engineer. I'm working in a local company. So I want to ask a question about Amy. I really feel the project because I have experienced the burnout myself. So as a technical person, I'm interested in the future. Like if I'm the owner of the company who purchased the monthly package of Amy, for example, so how I know that it's affecting how I'm getting the results is my people not experience like burnout. So do I have some user interface or
So,
thank you.
should I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the beginning we do pilot program with companies and they want to test if this actually works, right? When you spend money, you want to get return on investment. So the way we do is like we get a lot of, we get midpoint survey in the middle of our pilot, and also in the end we get surveys and how they feel about this. Plus we look at the usage rates of the people, how much they're actually using. If they don't use it, it means it's not effective, right? And after the pilot ends, we share them a report. Also, we do share weekly reports with them, how much was the usage, and if it's actually working, and what are the points of discussion employees have, and maybe some departments have some issues related to work. So that's how we kind of communicate with our customers. But it's work in progress because we are currently working on providing them some user interface also, so that we don't have to like do some emails like, hey, it's going well, but they can do more proactive checking.
Yeah, we'll provide some kind of dashboard to them eventually, but not there. It's not there yet.
Cool. More questions? Probably we'll get, if you don't mind, just one question. Yeah, one more question in case we have anyone who wants to ask a question. Before we do so, I have a couple of announcements because sometimes audience needs some more time. So what we agreed with our guests is that, and this announcement mostly goes to Team University students, we are doing a summer program, to London, to LSBU, early July. And is that early July? Yeah, the date? 2nd of July. It's going to last 2 weeks. So what we agreed with our friends is that they kindly agreed to do a mentorship session of up to 1 hour to those who are going to that London trip. So I'm teasing you to get interested into that. And our guests would advise on their experience of doing a project, because this trip is not just, let's say, tourism trip. It's going to be about conducting a project at LSBU. So those of you, please pass to your friends who are interested in this London trip are going to get, by the way, Marina, when is the information today? You are planning to meet students at what time?
At 3 p.m.
At 3 p.m. At 3 p.m. at Team University there will be a meeting where more details will be given about the breakdown of the program, what's going to be an outcome, what would be the goals. So before the trip will happen, our friends Aziz and Beknazar agreed to give 1 hour mentorship session to share their experience on projects and experience of traveling to another country, maybe some other questions that you potentially will have.
Sure.
And another quick announcement is that we will have prizes for the best questions. So you still have a chance to win something.
I think they had a lot of great questions. Like, we meet with a lot of people. And this audience has some really good questions.
Yeah. They are not sitting here just for the sake of sitting.
We had some not very good questions sometimes. Like, how much is your salary? Like, those are not like, those are the details. Like,
Then, if there are no more questions, I would like to conclude by one brief story, not a story, maybe an example of importance of really having a strong motivation, confidence, or the importance of stress. There is a big association, or let's say a community, which is called YPO. The description is Young Presidents Organization, that is how it's called, referring to business owners mostly. It's a global network. They have not a full chapter here yet, but there's an initiative, and it's around 15 people who are part of it. The criteria of getting to YPO is something like $10 million of an annual revenue, etc. So it's a mid and higher level of the entrepreneurs. You have to be the owner of the top manager. And the concept why I'm sharing is that one of the biggest selling points at YPO is they have that format which is called forum. They have forum sessions. So the main idea of the forum session is having a round table of people, people who would be sitting around the table, up to 6 participants, and they will be sharing their problems. So it is very confidential. They cannot judge. They can only share their personal experience. And they really use that as the way to get a relief, because you can imagine that people who are owning quite a significant, let's say, company, or responsible for managing it, throughout time they have hard time finding people who understand them. Not necessarily even professional psychologists, as you gave a description in your example, can really be helpful. So one of the biggest selling points of YPO, and annually they pay like $5,000 to continue your membership. They do the forum session. So I met some people in the United States who are part of YPO. It's a really huge, the biggest network of business people. So one of the biggest selling points they offer is really having an opportunity to share your problems with like-minded people. There are strict rules how this is facilitated. No judging, no blaming and shaming. There are a lot of very interesting rules. And once I participated in this session, that was, I don't remember in which state, but it was in the United States. I had that experience. It really worked well. I really enjoyed the feeling. It is as if something, elevated you, and you feel that feeling of the relief. So what I want to say is that I really would like to wish you a good luck in your startup. It's really great that people who were born in Uzbekistan, worked in big corporations, decided to take a challenge to leave that comfortable zone and to start something and have this wonderful already metrics of success, pre-seed, seed, and I'm sure it's going to be a great success. So let's thank our audience, our guests for giving us a really good their personal stories. Round of applause to you. And guys, I will make you think and choose one female participant. This is female participant?
This is for Jason.
Oh, this is for you. Okay, then this is for you first. This is for you. Please show us what is inside. I hope you will like it. Share with the audience what is inside. Okay, some merch,
I needed some t-shirts.
Team branded products. And I know that there are some mugs inside as well. So hope you will be using this. This is not going to be thrown to a trash can. Hopefully you're going to use, and this is going to be a product placement. So besides, we have 2 gifts for our audience. Please choose one female and one male. Who wants to choose which? This is female.
Maybe
female, and this is male participant. Please point to those participants and pass it to them. For the most active.
I would like to give.
Okay.
About the internship, right?
Yeah.
And we can actually have a picture, да, Ибрат? Давайте вместе сфотографируемся. Let's have a picture of all participants and one male participant as well. Who would be the lucky guy?
So about failures of my previous startups and why I'm gonna be successful. You guys.
Okay, please come.
I think he will come, right?
Yeah, he will come. He will come. Yes, he should. He should earn this.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So let's have a picture with Ibrat with some of the logos and some of the souvenirs.